What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Smooth Plays podcast. I'm Austin, aka Austin Plays. You may notice I don't have Dean with me this week. Unfortunately, Dean is out of town and isn't able to make it on this week's pod. All that said, I'm still going to be here. I'm going to be giving y'all my week 3 predictions, outlook, kind of on how I expect some of these games to go week 3. Week 2 was rough. We had a lot of underdogs in week 2 that went out and surprised a lot of people. Hopefully, we're not sitting at week 2 being like, dang, we don't know nothing, because we're not the only ones. There was a lot of guys, a lot of professional and a lot of experts and analysis that picked these favorites, and rightfully so, but they were wrong, just like the rest of us. So this week, we'll see what happens. See if these underdogs can kind of continue and off of that momentum that they had in week 2. But without that said, we still going to go over all these week 3 matchups. Starting off here Thursday night, we got the New England Patriots going up against the New York Jets in MetLife Stadium. This is a game that really I'm not completely sold on the New York Jets. Sitting at 101, the New England Patriots also at 101, but frankly, I still think the Jets should win this game pretty handily, in my opinion. I'm looking at the Jets. They're 6.5-point favorites against a New England team that frankly doesn't have quite the same firepower that the Jets have. And ultimately, I think it's going to come down to the passing game of the New York Jets. If they can, if Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson can kind of put it all together and be this dynamic duo that everybody thought they would be. And I think this is a game for them to go out and do that. And ultimately, I think they will do that. I think both of these guys have big games. And I got the Jets winning this one pretty big and covering the spread here at 6.5. I don't foresee Breece Hall being as big of a factor on the ground game. New England has a pretty good run defense, but also New England relies on their run game a lot. And I think that their offense is going to struggle heavily against a strong New York Jets defense. So that's why I'm going to be taking the Jets. Excuse me. I'm going to be taking the Jets minus 6.5 and winning this one by a couple touchdowns at least. Moving on into our Sunday slate, we got the Denver Broncos going into Tampa, taking on my Buccaneers, who are coming off a huge win against the Detroit Lions. And that's got me feeling like the Bucs are about to win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to lie. I am so confident in this Bucs team this year. And Baker, Baker, like if I was Jason Light right now, I'm going out there, I'm giving Baker a Pat Mahomes contract. No, I'm lying. I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. But I will say Baker has definitely found his home in Tampa, and hey, us Tampa Bay Bucs fans, we are thrilled and love to have him. So, what he's done for us the past couple years, we love it. And we look to see more of it, and can't wait to see it in week 3, because the Bucs are going to go out and then handle business against the Denver Broncos once again. The Bucs are 6.5-point favorites. I got them winning this one. I wouldn't be surprised though if Denver keeps this one close. I think that Denver still has a solid defense. It would not surprise me if they keep this one close and cover the spread. I just think that Bo Nix kind of needs to figure out what he's gonna do with this offense. He had a tough matchup last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's a great defense. TJ Watt screaming at him. And then this Bucs defense is a little bit banged up. Not gonna lie, dealing with a little bit of injuries with some pretty key players like Vita Vea, Antoine Winfield, Jamel Dean. All factors. I think that Bo Nix potentially could come out and, have a pretty solid game and be able to keep this one close. But at the end of the day, I'm still taking the Bucs. I think Baker's going to keep on baking. And Baker really could be an MVP candidate by the end of the year if he continues playing the way that he has through the first 2 weeks. So Tampa Bay taking down the Denver Broncos in week 3. Moving on, we got the Chargers and the Steelers. All right. I just said it. This Steelers defense, I don't care who they play. This Steelers defense is that good, and they're going to be able to keep Pittsburgh in a game, no matter who they play, in my opinion. I think that the Chargers, who are also 2-0, one of these teams has to lose. Frankly, I just believe in the Steelers defense a whole lot more than I do the Chargers right now as a team. J.K. Dobbins has looked fantastic the first 2 weeks. I think he's averaging almost like 130 yards per game through the first 2 weeks. I don't think that's going to happen this week, though. I think that the Chargers, being a run first team, are going to have to rely on Justin Herbert. And I think that Justin Herbert is the guy to get it done. But unfortunately, with kind of the lack of talent around him going up against a tough defense, and TJ Watt screaming, wreaking havoc on Justin Herbert is going to make it hard for him. I think it's just going to be chaos for the LA Chargers offense. And I got the Steelers winning this one and covering the spread at 2.5. But yeah, on top of that, I need to see Justin Fields make some explosive plays. At the end of the day, if Justin Fields is making explosive plays, whether it's on the ground or with his legs or through the air to George Pickens, I need to see something that is going to show me that the Steelers offense can produce points and not just rely on this defense all the time, because eventually that's going to catch up to them. But I believe in the Pittsburgh Steelers here in week 3. Moving on into Minnesota, we got the Texans and the Vikings, another game where we got 2-0 teams. One of these teams is going to get their first loss of the year. I got Houston winning this one. Houston sitting at 2-point favorites right now. Not to say that I don't believe in what Minnesota is doing. However, I just think that Houston has a lot more talent at the moment. At the quarterback position, I believe in Sam Darnold, honestly. I think that Sam Darnold can go out there and have, like I said, I think he can have a really good season for what he has in Minnesota. I believe Justin Jefferson's is questionable for Sunday. And if he does not play, then this Minnesota team, frankly, won't be able to really compete. Minnesota went out last week and they played a really good defense in the San Francisco 49ers. But I don't know if they can do that back to back. This Houston team is real good on the defensive side of the ball as well. But they also have the offense to match. Last week, the Niners, they're dealing with a lot of injuries, a lot of guys that are banged up. And then this is a Houston team that Joe Mixon has looked incredible to start the year. And, they got guys like Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs has looked really well, fitting in with the CJ Stroud in this offense in Houston. I got Houston winning this one pretty big, and they're only 2.5-point favorites, so I would be taking Houston minus points here. Moving on into New Orleans, let me tell you, the New Orleans Saints, they're a problem. If you don't believe that the New Orleans Saints are a problem, you need to start believing, because if you watched them go out and do what they did in Dallas against a top-tier team, granted, week 1, right? They played the Panthers. That was I'm not going to say it was expected, because I didn't expect them to put up 47 points. But then to go into Dallas the following week and follow it up with another 40-point performance offensively, whatever mojo they got going with the New Orleans Saints' new offense, it's working. And they got another tough matchup here against the Eagles. This is a game, I don't know if Derek Carr is going to be the reason they win this one. At least through the air, I think that this one is going to kind of be more of an Alvin Kamara show. I think they're going to be looking to get Alvin Kamara a lot of touches. This Eagles rushing defense hasn't been the best so far through the first 2 weeks, and I think Alvin Kamara is going to have an opportunity to really explode back-to-back weeks. I think the New Orleans Saints, realistically, they're this NFC championship favorites right now. I think they're the favorite in the NFC to go out and win the play in the Super Bowl, and potentially win it. So I'm going to be taking New Orleans until they give me a reason not to, because if they go out there and score another 40 points, every other team in the league needs to be very, very, very worried about what the New Orleans Saints could potentially do to them on a week-to-week basis. So I'm going to be taking the New Orleans Saints here. They're 2.5-point favorites. I'm just taking them straight up. I think they win this one against Philly. Philly's got a lot they got to work out. They were dealing with injuries last week, but still went out and did their thing. At the end of the day, I can't ignore what I've seen from New Orleans through the first 2 weeks, and so that's why I'm going to be taking the Saints here in this one. Moving on, we got the Green Bay Packers and the Tennessee Titans. The Green Bay this is a game that I see being very ugly. I don't think that Green Bay going out there and getting the win with Malik Willis is anything to hip and holler about, because the fact that Malik Willis is still going to be your quarterback. Grant, I did see that Jordan Love is back at practice this week, so that is awesome to hear. Awesome news. But at the end of the day, I don't think Malik Willis is going out there, even though this is a revenge game for him. I don't think he's going out there and doing, quarterback things, I guess if you want to call it. I don't think that he's going to be able to propel this Green Bay Packers team to a victory. But I will say I am also not very confident in the Tennessee Titans offense. This just boils down to, I think that Tennessee just has a little bit more going for them, which isn't a lot, and to say the least, but I just don't really believe in Malik Willis, to be honest. It's tough. It's tough. At the end of the day, I don't have a whole lot to go off of. I just think that Will Levis is going to kind of figure it out here in week 3. I think that Will Levis, he made some pretty poor choices and big moments the first 2 weeks that ultimately resulted in them losing. I think that if it comes down to Will Levis making a play late in a game here in week 3, I think he learns from those first 2 weeks, and I think he steps up and makes those plays. So I'm going to be rocking with Tennessee this week. They're 2.5-point favorites, which I don't love them being favorites in this one, but regardless, I'm still going to be taking Tennessee here to beat Green Bay. Moving on into Cleveland, we got the Giants and the Browns. Look, Deshaun Watson needs to figure it out, all right? Deshaun Watson very well could be out the door, especially if they fall another week here to the Giants. I wouldn't count out the Browns being in a similar situation that the Giants are currently in, just going into full rebuild mode. I still think that Deshaun finishes out the year with Cleveland. I don't see him, getting moved at the trade deadline or anything like that. Just because I don't really see any teams looking to get Deshaun Watson, honestly. If there was a team, I could advocate for maybe Miami with Tua going down. But at the end of the day, I just think that Deshaun Watson needs to figure it out. And if he is going to figure it out, this is going to be the week to do that against a very lackluster New York Giants team. This Cleveland Browns defense should dominate New York's offense, and New York's going to struggle to put points on the board in this one. So this is a 39.5 points is a lot for, I think, what is currently going on with both of these teams. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see an under on this one. But the Browns -6.5, I think the Browns should win. The Browns should win this one by a touchdown. If not because of Deshaun Watson, because their defense is just going to dominate and stifle the heck out of this New York Giants offense. So I got the Browns winning this one. Moving on into Indianapolis, we got the Bears and the Colts. The Bears and the Colts, I'm looking at them. If I'm the Bears, I think really both teams, it's going to come down to quarterback play. The Bears need Caleb Williams to score a passing touchdown. He is supposed to be Patrick Mahomes. That's what I've been seeing going into the year. People are comping him to Patrick Mahomes before he even takes a snap, which is straight blasphemy. But he needs to go out there and he needs to show up and play like the quarterback that all these experts and everybody in Chicago thought he would be. And I think he's going to get the opportunity here in Indianapolis. Indianapolis is currently sitting at 1.5-point favorites, and I do like the Bears to win this one outright as underdogs. Because the quarterback on the other side in Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson, has not shown really anything with the exception of a couple plays here and there through the first 2 weeks that, he can run an offense. And these first 2 weeks, he needs to go out there and show that he can consistently move the ball. And this Chicago Bears defense is a very solid defense and is going to be a problem for the Colts if they can't, if they don't establish the run game and are relying on Anthony Richardson to throw the ball. I haven't seen anything from Anthony Richardson that tells me that he can move the ball consistently through the air. So until I see otherwise, I am going to be taking the Bears. I think Caleb Williams is going to have the opportunity to go out there and, show people why he was the number 1 overall pick. DJ Moore, I need to see DJ Moore get more involved for that offense to really flow. He was the offense last year for the Chicago Bears, and he needs to still be a huge part of the offensive game plan for the Chicago Bears moving forward. So I got the Bears winning this one in week 3. Then after that, we jump into our late window on Sunday. We got the Panthers and the Raiders. This one's ugly because although the Raiders just had a big win on the road in Baltimore, they're still, not going to be, they're not going to be contenders by the end of the year. All right. If they make I'd still be surprised if they made a wild card appearance. But that being said, they did credit where credit's due. They went into Baltimore and got a really big win. I think that carries over. I think they go back home here against the Carolina Panthers, who are in shambles. I have not seen a team as bad as the Panthers in a while. They decided to bench Bryce Young this week, which seems a little bit hasty. A little bit too hasty to go ahead and just bench your number 1 overall pick that you gave up a lot of assets for. And then for Andy Dalton, who frankly isn't going to be, he's not the answer. Andy Dalton's not going to be the answer in Carolina. So I got the Raiders winning this one. The Raiders are sitting at 5-point favorites right now against Carolina, and I think they cover this. The Panthers offense has only put up 3 and 10 points through the first 2 weeks, and I don't think that Andy Dalton's going to be able to be the savior and figure out the offensive struggles. Bryce Young, I'm not giving up on Bryce Young. Just for the record, I think that Bryce Young is still a solid talent. I think he can go into a new system with a new offense, maybe a little bit more talent around him, and then thrive. I think he does have some of the capabilities to still be, a serviceable starting quarterback in the NFL. But that's just not going to be in Carolina. So that said, I'm going to be taking the Raiders in this one, winning this one by at least 5 points. Moving on to Seattle, we got the Dolphins and the Seahawks. The Seahawks are 2-0, which, good for them. But I think that I'm not gonna jump on the Seahawks being 2-0. It's still very early in the year. They played Denver and New England, 2 lackluster teams the first 2 weeks, to say the least. And so, yeah, I think that this game against Miami is, even without Tua, still going to be a test. I think that Miami's defense is going to kind of be the focal point moving forward with Tua going out. I still actually don't know who the quarterback is right now for the Dolphins. I don't know if they signed anybody yet, but I'm taking Seattle probably to win this one at 4-point spread. I would take the Dolphins plus 4 points, though, honestly. I think that the Dolphins defense is going to be able to keep this one close. I think Jalen Ramsey is going to be shadowing DK all year, or all game, and essentially, take him out of the game. And if that can happen, Miami definitely can keep this one close. And it's going to be, the defense is going to be a big part of that. And all that said, Miami still has Tyreek Hill, who is going to still get touches no matter who it is, just because he is so explosive. Miami's going to find ways to get the ball in his hands, whether it's down the field, check downs, whatever, right? Jet sweeps, it doesn't matter. They just need to get the ball in his hands and he's going to make plays. So I think Miami +4 here is a great spot. I'm going to be taking Miami +4 against Seattle. Moving on, we got the Ravens going against the Cowboys. These are two teams that had some pretty rough losses in week 2. Baltimore absolutely fumbled the bag against a Las Vegas Raiders team that they 100% should have beaten at home, especially, and straight up just didn't. So I don't know if this Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson combination is everything that we thought it would be. But I think that going into Dallas, it's not going to be easy. I like Dallas winning this one. I think that Dallas responds after they just got embarrassed at home by the New Orleans Saints. I think Dallas responds, and I think that defense responds. They just got 40 points put up against them. I think that, they're not going to let something like that happen again. And so Dallas, I see them bouncing back. They're sitting at, 1-point favorite. So essentially a pick 'em game. And I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys. It sucks to see that the Ravens are going to fall to 3-0, but it's still early. Just because you start not 3-0, 0-3, that doesn't mean your season is necessarily over. There's still a lot of football to be played. A lot of things can happen, and then you still always have the wild card. But 0-3 is going to be hard to recover from, no matter what team you are. So I'm going to be taking Dallas to win this one, and they're going to bounce back and kind of show, that they're not going to let that embarrassing loss at home last week kind of carry over into the rest of the year. So I got Dallas beating Baltimore in week 3. Moving on, we got Detroit and Arizona. Again, the Detroit Lions, this was a game that they were heavily favored in, and frankly, I'm not going to say they should have won, but we're expected to win. I still believe in Detroit. Aiden Hutchinson is looking like a dog. He had 4.5 sacks last week, which is an insane number. And then the Arizona Cardinals, though, they also looked really well. They put up a lot of points in week 2, and they need to get Marvin Harrison the ball every opportunity they can, because he had, I think, 3 catches on 4 targets for like 130 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter last week. So, and then they just kind of stopped giving him opportunities, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But if it proved anything, it proved to me, at least, if I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan, I want Kyler throwing him the ball every opportunity that he can, just giving him a chance to make a play and trusting that he's going to come down with it. So, when it comes to picking a winner in this one, it's a 3-point spread right now. 51.5 total points. I think I like Arizona in this one, honestly. I think if Arizona continues giving Marvin Harrison opportunities, he's shown that he's going to make plays. Detroit, on the other hand, I could also see them winning this game, but it's going to be tough. They're bouncing back off of a tough loss at home, and now they're going on the road into Arizona, who Arizona just played a great game. All that said, I'm not giving up. I think that Aiden Hutchinson and the Detroit defense is still going to be solid, and the Detroit offense is going to figure it out. They need to get Amon-Ra again. They need to get their playmakers involved. Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs needs more touches. But I think I do like the Arizona Cardinals here +3, and I could see them winning this one outright. So I'm going to be rocking with the Cardinals here in week 3. Moving into LA, we got the LA Rams taking on the Niners at home. I think if I'm looking at this game, right, the point total is at 43.5. The Niners are missing CMC. Kittle is questionable, and Debo is doubtful, right? Those are 3 elite at their position, like probably top 3. Oh my God, maybe top 5 top 5, weapons at their respective positions, and they're all banged up. But then I look at the Rams; they're all missing Nakua still, and Cooper Kupp. I don't believe he's been placed on the IR, but he is doubtful. He's listed as doubtful, so he won't be. I don't see him playing this week. That's essentially their entire offense. Kyron Williams, I don't see Kyron Williams going out and doing a whole lot on the ground, especially if the Niners are going to be loading the box, forcing some of these guys that don't have a whole lot of playing time in LA to make plays. Um, this is a game that I see being low scoring. I'm surprised that the point total is at 43.5. So I'm going to be taking the under on this one, and I'm going to be taking the Niners to win it. Just because I believe that the Kyle Shanahan offense, even though they got guys that are banged up, Kyle Shanahan's offense is going to make it easy for Brock Purdy and for these guys that maybe don't have a lot of experience to kind of step up. Guys like Jawan Jennings for the Niners, excuse me. I think Jawan Jennings is going to be a factor in this one. And so I'm going to be taking the Rams, but I am going to be taking the under solely on the fact that these are two still pretty good defenses, respectively. But, also just the offenses are for both sides are just banged up. So I'm taking Rams money line and pairing that with an under on 43.5. And then moving on, this is our last Sunday slate. We got the Sunday night football game between the Chiefs and the Falcons. I will say I was pooping on Kirk Cousins. He can't win a big game in prime time, but tip of the cap to you, my sir. Kirk Cousins went out there. He won a primetime game. And so the fourth quarter, the 2-minute drive that he had at the end of the game was probably some of the best I've ever seen Kirk Cousins, honestly. So yeah, that was awesome to see. I do, despite me hating on Kirk Cousins not being able to win primetime games, I do like Kirk Cousins as a human being, as a guy. I just don't believe in him to win big games, and he proved me wrong. But I'm still gonna be going against him here against the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think Kirk Cousins, can he go out there and win 2 primetime matchups back to back against big time opponents? I'm going to say no. So I got the Kansas City Chiefs winning this one. Chris Jones is looking like he might be a contender for DPOY up there with TJ Watt and Aiden Hutchinson right now. And then the Chiefs had 2 big wins against the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals, both at home. So now they're going on the road to Atlanta, who Atlanta still has a lot of talent. Don't get me wrong. But I think the Chiefs, back-to-back Super Bowl champs, they're not looking like they're going to be slowing down. Even if they have the refs on their side. I'm not going to get into that. But I am going to say that I still think the Chiefs are, I still think that they're the favorites right now to win the Super Bowl, and get a three-peat, which has, I don't know if it's ever been done in the NFL, but it would be awesome to be able to witness something like that. All that said, Chiefs, I got them. They're 3-point favorites right now. I got them winning in Atlanta. I'm just going to take Kansas City money line Sunday night prime time. And to close it out, we actually have 2 Monday night matchups this week, a doubleheader on Monday. We got the Bills and the Jags in Buffalo. Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked very well the last 2 weeks. And, if I'm in Jacksonville, questions, I think it's fair for Jacksonville fans at least to start, maybe questioning a little bit of whether or not Trevor Lawrence is going to be their quarterback of the future. Trevor Lawrence needs to turn it around, and, he's got guys still, they lost Calvin Ridley, who's been doing pretty well in Tennessee, but at the end of the day, Brian Thomas is an explosive rookie, and then he's still got ETN, so you still have guys there to make plays, but as a number 1 overall pick, you're expected to kind of make plays even with not the greatest talent around you. So Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, y'all need to figure it out offensively. And from Buffalo's side, Josh Allen looks really, really good. Even with the loss of Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen still looks like, the Josh Allen that we've seen the past some odd years. Um, Josh Allen's definitely in that MVP conversation right now. And I think that this is a game where he can kind of build on that. Um, but I will give respect to Jacksonville's defense. I think Jacksonville does have a respectable defense. I think they got a lot of excuse me. I think that they have a lot of young guys on their defense that are just kind of waiting to, step up. And now they're getting a prime time spot here to kind of showcase their talent a little bit and potentially get a big upset on the road. They're 5-point dogs right now against Buffalo, and I actually do like Jacksonville plus points here. I like Jacksonville plus 5 on the road in Buffalo. And then our last Monday night matchup, we got the Washington Commanders against the Cincinnati Bengals. Storyline for this one is pretty cool, but also a little bit bittersweet. I'm looking at, two LSU quarterbacks, number 1, number 2 overall picks between Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, 2 Heisman winners at LSU. Who's going to come out on top? And there's a lot of stuff going on in Cincinnati right now, especially with Jamar Chase. If you look at last week, Jamar Chase made a pretty crucial error when just talking essentially to the referee, complaining to the referee constantly. Really, he was complaining the entire game. And eventually, enough's enough. He got flagged in a critical spot, which eventually pushed Cincinnati out of field goal range, which if they hit a field goal when that flag gets called, it is now a touch. It's a 5-point game, and Kansas City now has to score a touchdown as opposed to just getting into field goal range and settling, which Patrick Mahomes has done plenty of times. There's no issues, and Harrison Butker is one of the best kickers in the league. He's going to go out there in a situation he's been plenty of times and get the job done. So just critical errors like that is stuff that can't happen in big spots against big time teams. And on top of that, the off the field stuff just kind of continues with, I saw a report that was talking about how Jamar Chase apparently is no longer interested in negotiating a long-term contract with the Cincinnati Bengals. They're currently 0-2. If they fall here to 0-3, I think that it is a very real possibility that the Bengals can start to slip a little bit, lose I think that they bounced back after that week 1 game and played a very, very competitive, good football game against the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. But you can't let a close game like that slip away from you and then carry that on into next week. So they have to continue to put that behind them and then focus on what's in front of them, and that's the Washington Commanders. If they continue to slip, though, don't be surprised if Jamar Chase is on the trade block come trade deadline, and you see him playing in another uniform to finish the year. All that said, Washington, they're 1-1, they're respectable for what they're going through. They're going through a rebuild. Jaden Daniels has looked really, really good these first couple of weeks. I would like to see a little bit more from him through the air and not so much with his legs, just because I know that that's going to catch up to him. I do want to see him kind of sit into the pocket, want to be a pocket passer a little bit more, get guys like Scary Terry involved more. But all respect to, what the Washington Commanders are doing, going through their rebuild. Unfortunately, I just think that the Bengals the Bengals showed me that, they can take a loss and then bounce back and compete against good teams. And the Washington Commanders are just not on the same level as the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Bengals, should be all right. I think they can bounce back and win this one at home and get their first win of the year to avoid going 0-3 to start the year. They are 7-point favorites here. I haven't seen enough to feel confident enough to take them minus points. So I would just take Cincinnati to win outright just to be safe. But yeah, that pretty much covers everything going on here in week 3. If I'm looking at these games, I think if I'm going to take an underdog, I think my underdog of the week has got to be either the Dolphins or the Cardinals. I think both of these teams have very good opportunities to go out there and win against two tough opponents. Seattle, obviously, not as tough as the Detroit Lions right now, despite their record. But I think the Dolphins can go out there and compete against the Seattle Seahawks, even without Tua. Like I said, I like them plus points, but I could also see them winning this one outright. And then the Cardinals, on the other hand, I think if their offense can continue and feed off the momentum that they had last week, that Arizona Cardinals team is going to be able to put up a lot of points against Detroit and be able to win that one at home. And then my lock of the week, I think my lock of the week has to be Niners and Rams. My lock of the week is going to be Niners and Rams under 43.5 points. I just don't see their offenses being able to move the ball very much. A lot of field goals in this one, and yeah, that's going to be my lock of the week. Niners Rams under 43.5 points. All right. So that pretty much covers everything. I appreciate y'all sticking with me and, riding with me solo. Don't worry, Dean's going to be back next week and we'll be able to feed off of each other. You get two perspectives. But that being said, all right, I don't got nothing else for y'all. I'm excited for week 3 and I'll make sure to catch y'all in the next one with my boy Dean back. So appreciate y'all stopping by. Excuse me, my mouth's dry. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. All right. And I'll make sure to see y'all in the next one. All right. Peace.